Alright. So A equals 4. Cosine would be negative square root of 2 over 2. A equals negative 2 square root of 2. B equals 4 times square root of 2 over 2. B equals 2 square root of 2. So it says component form. Remember, component is not parentheses. It's this vector notation. If you put that parentheses, I'm going to think order pair, and I'm going to count off points, okay? So I didn't do that on the quiz, but I will on the test. Alright. So that's my component. If it said write it in linear combination, it would be negative 2 square root of 2i plus 2 square root of 2j. Remember to watch your directions on that. Alright, we're going to skip that one to save time. Alright, next it says find each of the following. What form are vector f and g in? Component. How about h and I? Okay, so I want 3 times f minus g. What does that minus do to everything? And that's my answer. Now, and since those are in component form, I will give my answer in component form. Now, 2 times h plus 3 times I, those are in linear combination. My answer will be in linear combination. Combine your like terms. And that is your answer. Are there any questions on that? Alright, let's look at, we just did algebraically, now we're going to do geometrically. We won't do all these, I'll save some of these for tomorrow. Okay. A plus B. First we need to go and see what's going on with A. A, I'm going, how many am I going down? 3 down, and to the right, how many? Okay. B, I'm going what? Up, how many? Up 4, and then 1, 2, 3, right 4. C, I'm going to go down how many? 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, okay? So I got A plus B. Alright, so I'm going to start right here. Go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2. Plus B. Now I'm going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does everybody understand that so far? Now, how do I draw my resultant? From the tail of the what? To the head of the second one. And label. That's the resultant. That represents the sum. Alright. Now, if it's negative, you go opposite. Do we all good on that? Okay. Let's look at number 2. B plus 2A. I'm going to start here with B. I'm going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2, 3, 4. (2a). That means I'm going to multiply both of these values by what? So instead of going down 3, I'm going down how much? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Instead of going over 2, I'm going over how many? And that is my resultant. Are we good on that one? Okay. Next one, it says determine the dot product. Then determine if the vectors are orthogonal. Alright, so how do I do this? I'm going to say 8 times what? Negative 1. Dot product, what goes here? Plus or minus? Plus. And then 6 times. So it's negative 8 plus 12, which is 4. Is that orthogonal? No, okay. Okay, the next part is your homework problems that you're supposed to do, 36 to 44. So let's go over that. It says find the component form and magnitude, okay? We're dealing with a 3D vector now. So I'm going to say negative 4 minus negative 4. Negative 8 minus 0. 9 minus negative 3. So I get 0, negative 8, and 12. Okay, I want to find the magnitude of that. The square root of a squared plus b squared plus c squared. So 0 squared plus negative 8 squared plus 12 squared. That gives me 64 plus 144, which is what? Can we break it down? 4 square root of what? Okay, I hadn't worked it, so I'm going to trust you on that one. 4 square root of 13. Alright. The next two, it says find each of the following. Here's 3 vectors given in component form, so your answer will be in component form. 7 times vector A minus 5 times vector B. I'm going to distribute this with negative 5. Once I distribute by negative 5, have I used that minus? Yes. That gives me negative 65 and 28, 10, negative 18, and 56. Do y'all agree? Okay. Next, I'm going to say 6 times B plus C. And arrive at 34, negative 10, and negative 38. And the last two, your homework, find the dot product. So 3 times what? Plus negative 9 times. Plus 6 times. That gives you 0. Are they orthogonal? Yes. Number 44, 2 times 5 is 10. Negative 8 times 9 is negative 72. Negative 7 times negative 7 is 49. So that gives me negative 62. Do y'all get 13? Did y'all get 13? Negative 13. And that is no. Are we good on those? Okay. Does that review okay? Alright. So now I would like for you to turn to page 9. And then Ivy, you have a homework check after you're called up, okay? Alright. This is not bad. It might seem a little complicated, but it's pretty easy. So, blank uses, okay, so today we're talking about parametric equations. We have 2 learning targets. The first one, we're going to learn how to graph parametric equations. And the second one is I can eliminate the parameter. Alright, blank uses one parameter. This is, of course, parametric equations goes in the blank. Parametric equations uses one parameter, usually t, to describe x and y independently using 2 different equations. The graph is limited by the interval of t, and it also has direction. So what's the difference between parametric equations and the other things that we've studied? Well, you have that third variable t, and t restricts it, okay? It restricts it to an interval, okay? A certain interval of the coordinate plane. And it also has direction, so when you graph it, you're drawing arrows on the graph in the direction it's going. So it's describing what these 2 variables are doing during this interval they give you, okay? Alright. It says on this, let's just go to number 4, because 1 and 2 is going to confuse you. Let's just go to 4, so you see what's going on. So here's an equation. They give you 2. They give you one for x and one for y. They got x equals t squared minus 4 and y equals t divided by 2. What's your interval from what numbers? Negative 2 to what?
3.
Does it include negative 2 and 3?
Yes.
So you got that's the values you plug in for t right there. So let's do that. negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Now, you're going to plug, okay, you want the x value for when it's at t of negative 2. So, to find the x value of when it's negative, what's equal to it? Negative 2 on the interval, you plug it in that x equation. What's negative 2 squared? 4 minus 4 is? Okay. Let's find the y value. I plug negative 2 into the y equation. Negative 2 divided by 2 is? Negative 1. You got to do that for each one of them. Negative 1. Negative 1 squared is? Negative 1 squared is? 1 minus 4 is? Now plug negative 1 here. Negative 1 divided by 2 is a negative half, isn't it? I plug 0 in. 0 squared is 0. Minus 4 is negative 4. Plug 0 in. That gives me 0. And this is including the vector because these graphs have an initial point and a terminal point, okay? So now you say, Michelle, okay, so what do you graph? Okay, you use the t values to get your values, but this is the only stuff that you graph on the line. These are your ordered pairs that you graph, okay? So I'm going to graph 0, negative 1 first, negative 3, negative half, negative 4, 0. Now watch how I do this. You have to connect the dots, but when you connect the dots, you have to go back in there and put arrows to describe the motion that it's going. Doesn't matter where you put the arrows, but do you see, so I can know I followed the trajectory of the equation. So it's telling us what's going. It's going this direction, then it curves back and goes that direction. That's the difference between parametric. You got the third variable, you got an interval, you're trying to figure out what's going on during the interval, and when you connect dots, you got to draw the arrow, the direction that it's going. Okay, that's as hard as it gets. And the reason you're introduced to this is when you get to calculus, you go much deeper into these type of equations. Are there any questions on that first one? Let's skip down to number 6. I forgot to give you an interval here, so I'm going to give you an interval. Let's do from negative 2 to positive 2. Alright, I'm going to plug it in. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. Negative 2 squared is 4. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Negative 1 squared is 1. Negative 1, 0. 0, 1. 1, 4. Do not put arrows at the end of the graph because we only want to know what's going on at this interval. So that's why the dots stay as the initial and the terminal point, okay? Are there any questions on number 6? We're on page 9. Derek, please turn there quickly. All right, number 7. I have x equals negative sine t, y equals negative cosine t. I forgot to put an interval there once again. Sorry. So let's do this. I got from 0 to what? 2 pi. Okay, when you have that, wouldn't you just choose the major points? I'm going to give you permission. If you have a situation like that, just choose the major points. Do you include 0 and 2 pi? Yes, so let's do 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi, okay? And I want you to fill in that chart now based on that and graph it. Please don't tell me I can't figure out. This is like Tricky Tuesday. Sine of 0, cosine of 0, sine of pi over 2. But remember, what's in front of that sine and cosine? You got to multiply by negative 1. Sine of 0 is 0. Cosine of 0 is 1, but I have that negative, so 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0. 0 times negative 1 is 0. Sine of pi is 0. 0 times negative 1 is 0. Cosine of pi is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. And so forth. Do y'all understand how I got those values? Here, what we're doing here is parametric equations. You have a third variable t. Sometimes people refer to t as the time. But I don't like to refer to it as time because it's time negative. Sometimes time's not negative. So just think of it like time in the interval or something, but it's respect to that third variable. So it tells you what interval you're working with. So you put those numbers here. Then you take those numbers to find your coordinates to graph. You plug it into the x and the y coordinate. You see that there? And these are the points you graph on the graph. You don't graph these. These are the points. Because this is the interval on which you're graphing over. Now, the key thing here is when you graph it, connect the dots, but then you have to go back and put arrows showing which order was these points graphed in. Does that make sense? So that's the big thing. So watch this. I'm going to graph 0, negative 1, negative 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and it goes back. So it is a circle. But I got to go back and show my arrows in which I'm graphing that, and that is my answer. You good on this, Mason? So that's our first learning chart. I can graph a parametric equation. Are we good on that? Yes.
So would you count off if we did the line straight and it ended up being like a S?
I would rather just connect it. If it's in a circle, it'd be a circle. But I would, but it just doesn't look great. Alright, this next thing we're going to learn how to eliminate that third variable. Eliminate that third variable t, and that's our second learning target. I can eliminate the parameter, and this is very easy. The first, I've got the steps there for you. First one, you solve the equation for t in the x equation. Okay, so I'm going to solve for t. How do I get rid of that square root? Square both sides. Now take this. It says x squared is equal to t, and substitute that in for t right here. So I get t by itself here. Now take what t is equal and substitute that in for t on the second one. And that's your answer. So on that first one, I solve for t, and then whatever I get for t, I take and plug it in for t in the second one. And my t is gone. I've eliminated it. Okay? So on number 9, I'm going to solve for t first in the x equation. So what am I going to move over first? I'm going to move the 1 over. So x plus 1 equals t squared. How do I get rid of that square? Take the what? Take the square root. Now that this is equal to t, I can take this and plug it in for t over here, because I'm trying to eliminate t. You can, but it's accepted to do the x one. Okay, y equals 2 square root of x plus 1. Because in the end, aren't you? Normally, when we graph stuff, we want y by itself. So that's why we do that. Number 10, I'm going to get the x by itself, so I'm going to move what over? The x plus 2 equals t. Now, you don't have to do this right now in a minute. And you're all caught up. Alright, now I'm going to take that x plus 2 and plug in for t. Put x plus 2 squared. You say, Mr. Chase, do I need to multiply that? Yeah, go ahead and multiply that out. Pull it out. X plus 2 times x plus 2. And we save number 11 for tomorrow, okay? You good with that? Okay, what you can do now, you can get a lot of your assignment done, okay? How do you feel on graphing parametric? I need a hand sit on. Everybody need a hand sit on how you feel about graphing. How do you feel about eliminating? Okay. Alright, so page 12, 40. Get 12 questions. You can get half the done now. Page 12 is 46 and 47. You're graphing the parametric equation. And then 50 to 54 even, you're eliminating the variable. Eliminating the parameter. And then the next page, 13, is a review. So it starts reviewing you for your test, okay? So page 12, 46 and 47, 50, 52, 54. Page 13, numbers 5 through 11.